celebrations may be short-lived. I'm Carmen Roberts, Fox News. Airline passengers cheered this week when they were allowed to take off their mask, but the Justice Department now says it will appeal a judge's ruling striking down the mask mandate.
An appeal of a district court judge's ruling is not just about the 2-week extension the CDC says is needed to collect data.
Because as we've noted from here, we expect there to be ups and downs in the pandemic, and we certainly want the CDC to continue to have this authority.
White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki says the administration is encouraging Americans to continue to follow CDC recommendations, which do include mask wearing on airplanes, buses, subways, and other public transportation. At the White House, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
Russian forces are bearing down on Donbass as the West tries to rush more weapons to Ukraine.
A Ukrainian village was saved by farmers who became fighters. Moshun is now a scene of destruction, but Putin's forces failed here because of the contributions of the Territorial Defense, a localized militia that joined Ukrainian forces in resisting. But while the capital is safe for now, the situation in the southern seaport of Mariupol is dire. Desperate civilians are trapped, trying to survive.
Fox's Griff Jenkins. New York police are asking for the public's help in search for the killer of a person who stabbed a woman nearly 60 times over the weekend. Fox News talked to former Washington, D.C. homicide detective Ted Williams about the grisly murder.
I can tell you, when you stab someone 58 to 60 times, that in and of itself, to me, is a rage killing.
Word is the killer of Orsoya Gol left something behind that could help identify him or her. America's listening to Fox News.
Come try Guam's original Chamorro restaurant with Pica's best 5 years running. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus to nectar, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet hamburgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña and Grand Plaza Tumon location. Call their Hagåtña location at 479-2652 for reservations.
Listen to The Point anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Find your favorite stations like The Point and discover more. Music stations, local and trusted news sources, sports talk and team coverage, plus today's biggest podcasts. Find it all on the Odyssey app. AUDACY.
A judge sentences another parent caught up in the college bribery scandal to time behind bars.
California father Joey Chen is the latest parent to be sentenced as part of the Operation Varsity Blues probe, a massive investigation that uncovered nationwide college bribery schemes. Chen was convicted of paying $75,000 to help his son cheat on his ACT exam. The 67-year-old was ordered to spend 9 weeks behind bars and serve 100 hours of community service. He's the 35th parent to be sentenced as part of the college admissions case. Tom Graham, Fox News.
Johnny Depp's cross-examination lasted less than 20 minutes before court adjourned for the day Wednesday.
Johnny Depp on the second day of testimony in his defamation trial against his ex-wife Amber Heard detailed the alleged abuse that occurred in the relationship, describing one of the many altercations in which she grabbed a can of mineral spirits.
She threw it at my face, and it struck me right at the bridge of the nose.
Depp described severing his finger from a thrown bottle, about Heard leaving human feces on their bed, and her constant barrage of insults. Depp is suing for defamation over a 2018 Washington Post op-ed on domestic abuse. Heard accused Depp of abuse during their marriage. He denies ever hitting her. Michelle Polino, Fox News.
You might call it the little Mars helicopter that could. After more than a year of accomplishments, NASA is extending flight operations of the Ingenuity Mars helicopter through September. The experimental Ingenuity chopper hitched a ride to the Red Planet with the Mars rover in 2021 and became the first aircraft to fly on another world. The first, at least as far as we know it. And that's Fox News. I'm Carmen Roberts.
Hafide Guam, this is Governor Lou Leon Guerrero. Our teams at Public Health and GITA are rolling out several new programs to make childcare more affordable for working families while supporting childcare providers and growing jobs. Programa ni Pinila ni Famaguan Guahan launched on April 5th, and we've expanded eligibility so thousands more families now qualify. Please visit guamchildcare.com to learn more about these programs and apply for relief today.
This ad is paid for with federal funds and administered by the Department of Public Health and Social Services.
Half a day. Patsy Gogri from Security Title here with information about what a title company does. The title side of our business determines who owns a property and guarantees your ownership with a title insurance policy. The escrow side acts as an independent third party, managing the transfer of money and documents between the buyer, seller, lenders, and others. Security Title has the management of real estate closings down to a science. Give us a call. We are here to help.
The Federal Reserve is starting to increase interest rates to fight inflation, but they're still so low, making it the perfect time to refinance your home, to lower your rate, and perhaps take advantage of its increased value to put some cash in your pocket during these uncertain times. Cash that you can have the freedom to access when you want, where you want, with your Bank Pacific Visa debit card. Lower your rate, put cash in your pocket. Access your cash when you want, where you want, with your Visa debit card. Brothers put branches, we place roots, and we're rooting for you. Equal housing lender, credit conditions apply.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. What a great way to start a talk show with a respectful reading of the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution. This show pays a lot of attention to the Constitution, all of its amendments, laws enacted pursuant to it, etc. If you're a conservative, welcome aboard. You're in the right place. If you're a liberal, well, welcome aboard. You are in the right place too. You need to get your head on straight. All right, let's see what we got here in Demi-Cotney today. Just add parenthetically, it's been so long since I've awarded a blue star, I don't think I can even find my blue pencil anymore.
It might have dried up.
Yeah. Okay, starting out with the Daily News. Daily News jumps on the bandwagon here. Our view, settlement is good news in fight for native species. A settlement this week between the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the Center for Biological Diversity and Blue Ocean Law is good news for the people of Guam and the region. The Fish and Wildlife Service agreed to identify and protect critical habitat for 23 endangered and threatened species on Guam and in other parts of Micronesia over the next 3 years. I'm just going to stop here and ask for Jose to comment on just this part of the sentence. The Fish and Wildlife Service agreed to identify and protect critical habitat for 23 endangered and threatened species on Guam. Isn't it great that we're protecting 23 endangered and threatened species, Jose?
Not one of them was an unborn human.
Yeah, well, we can protect insects and snails and stuff like that, but I think the pro-abortionists figure you got to draw the line somewhere.
I don't even think a Simon Sanchez shark was made the list.
Right. The group sued in 2021. Under the settlement, Fish and Wildlife had to submit its critical habitat designations by June 26, 2025. The species covered in the settlement are found on Guam, the Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands, Palau, and the Federated States of Micronesia. Any agreement that helps protect rare, endangered, or threatened species on our island or in our waters is a win for our community. Well, I'm not so sure of that, but I'll get to that later on. The islands that make up this region have suffered from habitat loss and destruction due to development. land has been lost or altered due to climate change. Climate change? Invasive species have been brought, some accidentally, some intentionally, and have killed or crowded out the native species. With everything going on right now with the military buildup, we're in danger of losing important parts of our culture. You got to throw this, if you're going to write an editorial, you got to throw the C word in, right? Yeah, like protecting that snail is an important part of the culture.
You've never had Chamorro escargot?
Yeah.
That's very tasty.
Yeah. We are the people of the land, and so we are the people of the land, and so when our plants and animals thrive, we thrive. Francis Mano, a local Zoamte, said in a news release announcing the settlement, "There's no future without them." Attorney Julian Uggan said critical habitat designation is needed to protect, quote, native species like the Mariana 8-spot butterfly, which exists only in the Mariana Islands. Without the designation, he said the species would be lost, and along with them, irretrievable aspects of our indigenous ecosystem and culture. The indigenous culture would be lost without the 8-spot Mariana's butterfly. The species that will get critical habitat designations include the Pacific sheath-tailed bat, which has already been wiped out on Guam but lives on other Pacific islands. Now, I wonder who would have wiped out a bat? Who would have killed all the bats on Guam?
Another endangered species on Guam.
Uh-huh.
The Chamorro.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, 60 years ago when I got here, bats were not, they didn't darken the sky, but they weren't that rare. But, I've been to fiestas where people would say, "Hey, Bob, come over here. I've never tried it. I don't think I ever will. But, it's highly sought after, and therein lies the tale of its disappearance. So we've got the Pacific sheath-tailed bat, Sleeven's skink. I'm so glad we saved the skink. Which also has been eliminated. We didn't save it. And the Mariana's 8-spot butterfly, which is native to Guam and Saipan, but is no longer found on Saipan. Our region has has seen extension up close. The groups are to be congratulated for their work on the lawsuit and the settlement. Well, it all sounds so good, and it's another feel-good editorial from the Daily News, probably saying to themselves, who could object to saving a native species? And somebody on the editorial board said, you know who's going to object. Tall tales. Bob will object. No matter what we write, he doesn't like it, which isn't too far from the truth. Well, the Daily News, the Post ran a concomitant story that says rare tree snails slow design of new Simon Sanchez High School. A colony of 3 snails discovered at the new Simon Sanchez High construction site has kept contractors from reaching their target.
Wait, how many snails?
A colony.
Of 3.
Of tree snails.
Oh, tree. I thought you said 3.
Yeah. But the key word here is colony.
Oh.
It's a colony
Better
of...
not tell Hope.
Yeah, it's a colony of... You're nothing but a colonizer, you tree snails. The Guam tree snail is unique to the island and is listed as one of 23 endangered or threatened species throughout Greater Micronesia. Once a common sight, the snail is now endangered as a result of habitat loss, military expansion and training, invasive species, and climate change, according to a release from the Center for Biological Diversity. Recently, a legal victory was secured by the Center for Biological Diversity and Blue Ocean Law against the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, resulting in the identification and protection of critical habitats for identified species. The discovery of the snails at the new high school means that DOE won't meet the 90% design completion target by the end of this month. But we saved the snail. You kids, you people up there, up in my hometown, up in Jigo, will figure, well, Simon Sanchez has been a ruin for years, and everybody keeps talking about, but they're finally doing it. So maybe when my kid starts high school, maybe if he's in first grade. Yeah.
Yeah, protecting sharks is so passé.
It is, yeah. Who cares about the sharks? I quote, I have to inform you that the 90% will not be likely until the end of May or into June. And the reason is there was a discovery of a colony of tree snails on the site that will, of course, mean some adjustments to the design in order to address that colony. GDOE Superintendent John Fernandez said, Taniguchi Ruth Macchio Architects is working on getting the design from the 60% mark to the 90% mark, according to Fernandez, who met with architects on Tuesday. We went through a page-by-page review, and I think for the most part we're comfortable where things are. For the most part, we need to actually check with Gita on the financing piece, which would be critical, but we're working to complete the document. The project was previously expected to cost $100 million in 2016 dollars, according to a GovGuam estimate. The price tag of the new Jigo High School adds to the nearly same amount projected necessary to address delayed maintenance throughout the rest of the island's public schools. So, you know, if protecting the tree snail only costs us $2 or $3 million more to build a high school, whoa, it's only... No, it's not. It's not right. You know, it's a classic example of eco-fascists gone wild. Now, I suspect that some of our older tailgaters here would remember the Tellico Dam fiasco, a dam that was to be built on the Tennessee River. And the environmental wackos got involved there, brought suit. The suit went to the Supreme Court finally, and the Supreme Court said that the Environmental Protection Act, the Endangered Species Act, was clear on its face, and that there was no room to exempt the Tellico Dam from its operation. It was a case, not a constitutional case, but purely a case of statutory construction. Now, there were some arguments saying that the act shouldn't have applied to the Tellico Dam because the Tellico Dam, commitment for the Tellico Dam and construction was actually begun before the Endangered Species Act came on the books. And one of the Supreme Court justices, the one that Richard Nixon referred to as Wrenchberg, this goes back to the Nixon tapes, when Nixon was trying to decide who to appoint to the Supreme Court after Berger died to be the Chief Justice. He had a conversation with Haldeman and his henchmen as to who to appoint, and they came up with a few names. And Nixon said, well, how about that fellow Wrenchberg? Wouldn't he be a good justice? Yeah, anyhow, Wrenchberg dissented and said you should balance the equities here, which makes an awful lot of sense to me. So an injunction issued and the construction of the dam was held up. A couple of Tennessee congressmen, one of whom being Howard Baker, introduced legislation in the Congress to exempt the Tellico Dam from the Endangered Species Act. And here is a speech that Howard Baker made on the floor of the Senate. He's addressing Mr. President, President of the Senate, of course. And this is what he said. Mr. President, I hope this is the last time around. I hope we can resolve this issue once and for all, and I hope reason will finally prevail. Mr. President, the awful beast is back. The Tennessee snail darter, a fish that's about 3 inches long, a Tennessee snail darter. This awful beast is back, the Tennessee snail darter, the bane of my existence, the nemesis of my golden years. The bold perverter of the Endangered Species Act is back. He's still insisting that the Tellico Dam on the Little Tennessee River, a dam that is now 99% complete, be destroyed. In the midst of a national energy crisis, the snail darter demands that we scuttle a project that would produce 200 million kilowatt hours of hydroelectric power and save an estimated 15 million gallons of gas. 1977 was the time for you younger folks that you went to buy gas in accordance with the last digit of your license plate. One day was odd, one day was even. Gas rationing. So, once again, Howard Baker, in the midst of a national energy crisis, the snail darter demands that we scuttle a project that would produce 200 million kilowatt hours of hydroelectric power and save an estimated 15 million gallons of oil. Although residents have been found in which he can thrive serenely, they found alternative locations for the snail darter. The snail darter stubbornly insists on keeping this particular stretch of the Little Tennessee River as his principal domicile. Let me stress again, Mr. President, that this is fine with me. I have nothing personal against the snail darter. He seems to be quite a nice little fish, as fish go. Now, seriously, Mr. President, the snail darter has become an unfortunate example of environmental extremism. Now, a little backstory here. One of the oppositions to passing the Endangered Species Act was the fear that something just like this would happen, that the environmental wackos would seize on some kind of microscopic animal and throw monkey wrenches in the works to protect its habitat. Now, seriously, Mr. President, the snail darter has become an unfortunate example of environmental extremism, and this kind of extremism, if rewarded and allowed to persist, will spell the doom to the environmental protection movement in this country, and more quickly than anything else. We who voted for the Endangered Species Act with honest intentions of protecting the glories of nature, as the wolf, the eagle, and other treasures, have found that extremists with wholly different motives are using this noble act for meanly obstructive ends. Sorry, kids, school won't be ready in September.
I'd like to make an announcement, Bob.
Sir.
Since I'm ineligible for the Chamorro Land Trust, I'm considering identifying as a tree snail.
Well, if you've got your heart set on it, Jose, I mean, who am I to doubt, right? You're going to have to change your pronouns.
I don't know. I'll catch up with you on that.
Yeah, maybe it and itself and its.
I'm relegated to Jigo, but at least I'll have some property.
There you go. Yeah. So what Howard Baker said it was actually after 1977, makes a whole lot of sense. And that's exactly, why I use the term eco-fascists, because many of these environmental suits are pretextual. When Julian Uggan gets involved with something, the first thing I think of is separatism. And the separatists, of course, apparently adopt the tactic that you beat up on the military try to cast the military in a bad light, do the same thing with the national government, thereby laying a foundation to separate from the national government. So I don't have substantiation here. This is just my suspicion that this whole lawsuit to save the tree snail is just more of the same old thing, more of the same old separatist stuff in the guise of environmental whackism.
What was Senator Ariola's name, the one who authored the pro-life, the anti-abortion
bill?
Mm-hmm. What was her name?
Bell.
Oh, Bell. Ariola. Yeah. I recall a quote, and I'm going to be paraphrasing here. She says, "What is the use of culture when there are no more children or Chamorros to practice it?" And this is a good example of the tone deafness of this editorial and what's been happening as far as legislation and anti-abortion legislation.
Yeah, we're really happy that we saved 19 species of snails.
I don't think people realize that the population of Chamorros on the island is below 50% and shrinking.
Down around 33%. Yeah. And if you looked at the abortion statistics, Chamorros lead the pack.
Upwards of 70%, 67%?
Something like that, yeah. It's not even close. Okay, so once again today, the Post does not have an editorial. Apparently they're still on strike. However, Troy jumps in to fill the gap again. And here's an editorial that ran today in Candid News. Editorial: Guamanians have urgent need for $320 million stashed in the bank. There is a more urgent need to use money sitting in the bank to help struggling families than to let it sit for a hospital campus with plans that won't even be drawn up for another 2 years. And of course, I got to add my own 2 cents worth, provided we get cooperation from the snails on that one. It has already been more than 2 years since the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers detailed in a 130-page assessment the serious life, health, safety conditions at Guam Memorial Hospital. We previously published this assessment along with more than a dozen stories over the past couple years supporting the construction of a new hospital, celebrating the local and federal funding authorizations for it, criticizing the planned lease of land in Fadian, and asking where the urgency is to repair the existing hospital plant as we wait for a new one. For at least a year, the money has been there, so the time-honored excuse of, there's no funds, won't cut it this time. In fact, the governor originally committed to using $400 million of more than $600 million in federal discretionary ARPA funds as a down payment for her planned medical campus at Fadian. She has since tailored the price tag to a shade more than $300 million. Now Lieutenant Governor candidate Sabrina Salas Matanani called out the governor for storing that money in her family's bank. Sabrina better watch out. You know, the consigliere is not going to like this, and he's back at the bank. Yeah, at the family's bank, while Guamanian families suffer the increasing struggle of today's reality. Not one shovel of dirt anywhere has been turned, nor has any money been spent to replace a dangerous GMH electrical distribution system. Shocking. This elevation gives credence to Ms. Montanani's call for the use of that money for more urgent needs among the everyday Guamanian. Back in October of 2021, the governor signed into law Bill 121-36, also known as the Guam 21st Century Health Care Construction Act of 2021. The sponsors of this legislation worked tirelessly on this bill, which had 3 separate public hearings. It was heavily debated and passed unanimously with the votes of 13 senators who were present to vote. The bill references that $400 million the governor first said was setting aside for what she projected to be a $1 billion project. As some have pointed out, including Peter Scrow Jr., who has extensive experience with building hospitals, the price tag is peculiar and seems to have been pulled out of someone's behind. No! You know what this reminds me of?
What?
Something that Ray was talking about this morning. Yeah, this guy whose name appeared on the police blotter. His name is spelled A-N-U-S.
Yeah. You're scraping the bottom here, Bob.
And according to the magistrate's complaint, he first identified himself as Harry. and Ray gave the guy a little free advice. You know, if your surname is Anus, you might want to keep a lower profile. But my own take on it, if a guy's surname is his real first name is Jerry, but he called himself Harry.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so I guess he doesn't mind being the butt of his own jokes.
Too bad he got pinched.
Yeah. Anyhow, that's what Troy says. The number may have been pulled out of... I think we've identified the potential culprit here, right? His first name is Harry or Jerry, depending on who he's talking to. The legislature gave everything the governor needed to finance a new hospital, new behavior and wellness center, and a new public health building. Her GIDA authority repeatedly lobbied and testified in favor of the authorization. This structure should have paved the way for at least one RFP to be issued for these developments, especially when you consider the availability of Oka Point as a site for development. Yeah, well, I guess before we decide on Oka Point or Eagle Field, we have to do a thorough economic or ecological survey to find out how many snails live there. Because one snail and it's off. All right, let's take a short break.
Are you looking for a new place to hang out with your friends? Let's go along the sidelines at Sidelines Bar and Grill. Located at 154 Iriarty Road, Unit 4 and 5 in Tamuning behind Royal Bigs. Sidelines, a hidden gem with nothing but great things to offer. Great atmosphere, great food, top shelf drinks, and a great team. What are we waiting for? Let the fun begin at Sidelines Bar and Grill. Open daily from 3 p.m. to 2 a.m. See you there.
We're already Pika's best radio station, but we're always looking for ways to be even better. Announcing the point on Alexa. In addition to our FM and HD radio feeds, our incredible app, informative website, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live, you can now tell Alexa to stream The Point. And your smart speaker will start playing whatever we're saying. News and views 24/7 with your 4-word command. Alexa, stream The Point.
Now, more Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie. Spitting truth like watermelon seeds at a summer picnic. Call now, 888-TALK, 888-8255.
Yeah, so if you got to decide, the decision as to where to build a new hospital is moving at a snail's pace. Yeah, and more than likely, if the eco-fascists have their way, will continue to move at a snail's pace. The legislature, there's now the issue of whittling down of the cash commitment from $400 to $300 million. Where did the difference go? And can we now use the balance to stimulate economic recovery for families in need? Can anyone in Adelup answer the simple question why hundreds of millions of dollars simply sat in a bank for that long without even a final decision on where the site would be? Can anyone at Adelup tell us why, after having hundreds of millions of dollars available for needed repairs, replacements, and upgrades, At GMH, the millions instead simply sat in a bank. Will GMH continue to deteriorate? I think the answer is, yeah, there are people at Adelup who could tell you that information, but the day they did, they wouldn't be at Adelup anymore. Did anyone on the governor's economic advisory councils even whisper the positive economic impact to our community if this $300 million to $400 million was released into our economy, funds distributed to the people? Well, if they wanted somebody to whisper, they should have gotten Eric Miller from the Civil Service Commission, who during Civil Service Commissions whispers in the chairman's ear. If you'd like to know a little bit more about Eric Miller and the Civil Service Commission and whispering, you ought to pick up a copy of Pacific Island Times. My April column is in there, and it's let me see what the title is here. It really gets into whispering. Yeah, the horse whisperer, or rather, the wolf whisperer. So I think it's pretty interesting, and it really blows the whistle on Eric Miller and what goes on at the Civil Service Commission. Something that's absolutely unpardonable happens there. So this weekend, you don't have to be completely devoid of tall tales. You can pick up a copy of Pacific Island Times, and you can read the Tall Tales column. Better than nothing. Better than a poke in the eye with a sharp stick, I always say. Certainly some discussion must have happened, especially since the governor's own admission the design for just the hospital was still over 2 years down the road. Unfortunately, we do not have much optimism anyone will be able to answer these simple questions. Speaker Therese Tetlahi still is trying to find out what happened to the $10 million she worked hard to get to GMH for the electrical distribution system. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers already provided the governor with immediate actions to get GMH up to code, and that was 2 years ago. We've had the hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank for a year now. If GMH isn't the priority, and the money isn't going to help with the financial crisis facing the everyday family, then what is going to happen with that money? Give it to the village of Enalahan. They know what to do. No, give it to the village of Chalampago. Jesse Gogui knows what to do with money.
This story is greatly collecting interest.
Certainly. All right, so let's see what we got on the card for this afternoon, April 21. So, of course, we start out with Paul Zerzan versus systemic racism. We've got the Republican Party versus Lou Barnes. That would be Tina Rose Munga Barnes versus men. We've got Michael San Nicolas versus Lou, Chuck Sanchez versus the Contractors Licensing Board, quote, tradition. And then we've got some stuff that's been on the card for a long time that I haven't got to. So kind of a thin card today, so if you want to introduce new matter into the conversation, it might not be a bad time to do it. Well, the latest on Paul is that his grievance is now before his appeal is now before the Civil Service Commission. It's in the Civil Service Commission's calendar in today's paper, so we'll see how that turns out. Systemic racism. I don't think I really need to explain it anymore. The narrative versus the facts, the narrative versus the truth. Yeah, I've got the calendar here for the Civil Service Commission, and we've got, let's see here, yeah. New business. 3, whistleblower assessment hearing and signing. Order after hearing. Paul Zerzan versus Department of Labor. CSA case 22 WB01. So apparently a decision has already been made, and today they're going to decide whether or not to sign the decision that Eric Miller has probably whispered in all of their ears already. And again, on the Public Law 36-34 front, I've got the agenda here for the port, and it looks like Rory has turned over a new leaf. He's got several items here about creating positions, and in his agenda, he even cites the statutory authority that he's relying on to create the positions. And there's nothing here that I can detect that says, I can't talk about it. It's a personnel matter. All right. Guam, as you were, the Republican Party versus Lou, and more items concerning abortion. The following is a news release from the Republican Party of Guam. The Republican Party has always supported the right to life and the science that life begins the moment of conception, which is why we stand behind and fully support Bill 291-36, also known as the Guam Heartbeat Act of 2022. I knew there was a reason I was a Republican. Sometimes it's a little hard to remember, but this is good for refreshing my recollection. The legislation is about protecting and saving human life to include the most vulnerable, the life in the womb. And by the way, I got to stop and remind you that the Sunday Forum will address whether Bill 291-36 should pass. And the deadline to submit your article to voice@pdn.com is 5 p.m. on Friday. I'm going to submit one, and I hope everybody out there in the international radio listening audience does, because I suspect the other side will. Opponents to the bill are claiming that the bill is moot since there are no abortion doctors on the island. Although there are no doctors that perform this specific procedure, there are other medical practitioners that still do perform abortions. Pills that essentially force a miscarriage are also being used. Both are also not being reported. I don't remember. The names of these two pills are they're unpronounceable medical terms, but the first pill starves the baby to death. The second pill causes the type of contractions necessary to expel the dead baby from the mother's body. Medical abortion. Another false narrative that is always part of this argument is that proponents for this type of legislation don't address social issues, such as, but not limited to, foster care, adoption, homelessness, and sexual assault. In other words, a little equivocation goes a long way. You know, if you don't want to speak up to abortion, talk about global warming. If you don't really want to fess up and admit that what you're doing is taking the life of a helpless, innocent human, divert the conversation to saving the tree snail and the 18 other endangered species on Guam. Another false narrative is always part of this, as you were. These issues are that require a moral are issues that require a moral responsibility, which should be addressed by all parties, always, regardless of their position on abortion. We don't need to fix the world to justify a person's existence. And equally important is that we can't only start addressing these social issues when pro-life measures are introduced. Yeah, it's just like clockwork, Jose. As soon as somebody introduces a pro-abortion bill, an anti-abortion bill, the pro-abortion folks come out with this. Well, when are you going to? You guys are in favor of life. When are you going to start helping the kids that are already born? Just like clockwork. A related argument is that proponents to pro-life bills are insensitive and neglect victims of rape and incest. In these cases, it's important that these victims get help and counseling that they need. There are success stories of women and their children that were able to overcome this horrible crime. Punishment should be focused on the perpetrator and not the innocent life inside the womb. How can you possibly punish an helpless innocent for what somebody else did? And of course, the old saw, two wrongs don't make a right. Another claim is that these types of measures only come up during election years to get votes and is backed by a vocal minority is an absolute farce.
Wrong.
Put simply, this bipartisan measure and others like it, and by the way, Senator Talina Nelson, the vice speaker of the legislature, and Amanda Shelton are the prime movers here. It's Nelson's bill. She is the sponsor, the one who introduced it. And of course, she got all of the Republicans, all of the real Republicans, to flock to her aid because it's part of the Republican Party belief system that you shouldn't take the life of a helpless, innocent human. They aren't pandered to a vocal minority or quiet majority, but instead are focused on the only priority, which is the most vulnerable sitting in a woman's womb. That's the real priority. So good going, Republican Party. Now, let's turn to this whole thing. Well, what about rape and incest? Now, I haven't run the numbers. I suspect somebody has. But I suspect that the incidence of it here is rather small, unless it's one of these repeated rapes, which are oftentimes within the family. But it really doesn't change the major fact that a child conceived by rape is a human being and has as much right to life as anybody else does. Now, I've got an article here that ran in an outfit called Archindi, and it goes like this. Ryan Baumberger, who you've probably heard of, makes a point during his talk at this year's Right to Life of Indianapolis Celebrate Life event on October 6th, held virtually this year to the coronavirus pandemic. This was October 6th last year. Ryan Baumberger came into the world with the appearance of a life unwanted. His conception was unwanted, the result of a rape. His mother didn't want him and gave him up for adoption. The key word, though, is appearance. Appearance of a life unwanted. And that's how it would appear to all of the Democrats, the pro-aborts. Quote, "There is no such thing as an unwanted child," Baumberger said. "We're all wanted by someone." Baumberger, co-founder of the Radius Foundation, along with his wife, shared his story during Right to Life, Indianapolis, etc. Baumberger and the Radiance Foundation share a common cause. They're focused on promoting the dignity of every life from conception to natural death and helping mothers choose life for their babies. After presenting 2 awards, the RTLI president, Mark Tuttle, introduced Baumberger as someone with an incredible personal story that spurred him on to be an effective voice for the preborn and for the quality and dignity of every human being. Baumberger, a black man, which really increases his credibility, learned of his own dignity through his adopted family. He is one of 10 children of varying ethnicities and races adopted by a white couple who also have 3 children through childbirth. One of the most powerful things I learned is that the color of our skin doesn't define us. We are one human race. Don't be colorblind, but also recognize that God created all of these colors for us to celebrate each other, not to separate each other. Baumberger is open about his conception through rape. The circumstances make his gift of life even more profound and purposeful, he said. I've tried so many times to find and thank my birth mom, he said. What do you say to a woman who went through 9 months of carrying you, who had the strength to overcome her traumatic situation to choose life? I'd like to pose that question to Sherry Kolb, the one who said, you know, it's not worth going through the pregnancy if you're not going to keep the child. Okay, let's take a short break here and we'll come back to Ryan Baumberger.
Come try Guam's original Chamorro restaurant with Pica's Best 5 years running. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus to naktak, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet hamburgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña and Grand Plaza Tumon location. Call their Hagåtña location at 479-2652 for reservations.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Hi, I'm Jerry Roberts, and every day on The Ray Gibson Show, I get to comment on the incredibly diverse, fun, challenging, sometimes frustrating, often exciting, but always interesting world of work. I hope you'll be there with us.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at guamtraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts, brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
Okay, well, Donna Mila helps me with definition of terms here. She says it's called an elective chemical abortion. It's not necessarily a medical measure, unless it turns out that it's botched, and the person who took the pills has to go to an OBGYN to minimize the damage of that procedure.
To stop the hemorrhaging. That's what happens.
Yeah. Okay, back to Ryan Baumberger, a gentleman who was conceived by a rape, and he's pretty grateful to his mother carrying him through the pregnancy. And I contrasted that with an article I read by Sherry Kolb, who is a lawyer and writer that works for an outfit called Justicia. Sherry's a good writer. She's way out on the left, and she explains why the adoption option won't work for an awful lot of women. And she explains how hard pregnancy is, but women will undergo the pregnancy if they really want the child. They figure it's worth it. But if they don't want the child, then why bother with the pregnancy? That's basically her selfish approach to the whole thing. But Ryan's mother stuck with it. He was born and then he was adopted. And then he goes on to say, Planned Parenthood would have had his mother make a different choice. Planned Parenthood exploits rape all the time. They've been sued in state after state for not reporting rape. The circumstances of the conception don't change the circumstances of the child's dignity and right to life. Planned Parenthood is no friend of women, he added. Using information gathered from 2018 Planned Parenthood reports, Baumberger shared that in that year their breast exams, pap tests, and prenatal services were down anywhere from 68 to 76%, while abortions increased by 4%. The decrease in services and the increase in abortions contributed to a 600% increase for profits for Planned Parenthood in 2018. Now, there was this movie called Unplanned that I'm going to proceed with on the basis that it's accurate and not made up. And in that movie, one of the Planned Parenthood officials explains to one of the local managers, It's like going in for fast food. You know, fast food joints don't make money on the hamburgers. They make money on the soft drinks. That's where the profits are.
That would be Abby Johnson, I think.
Yeah, Abby Johnson. And by the way, this is the hand that shook the hand of Abby Johnson, Catholic Identity Conference, Pittsburgh, last October.
Awesome.
Yeah, she spoke at the conference.
Awesome.
She was very welcomed by that outfit, I'll tell you.
The year before she left Planned Parenthood, I know this is another tangent, she was given the award of the most successful Planned Parenthood manager of the nation.
Yeah.
And then she realized what she was doing.
Yeah, it finally dawned on her. Yeah, so the lesson was that in the fast food business, it's the soft drinks where the profits margin lie, not in the burgers and fries. And the Planned Parenthood manager explained to Abby, with us, abortion is the soft drinks, not the breast exams and the pap smears.
Well, there's another reminder that function of the bois, when it was reenacted, brought back from the dead, was to procure an abortionist. Planned Parenthood was one of the groups that was solicited to come out here to Guam, and they were entertaining it, but they said, no, thank you. There's just not enough profit in it.
Uh-huh. The market isn't here.
It isn't here.
Yeah, you can't do enough abortions to make it worth our while. Don't believe them when they say they're all about health care for women, said Bomberger. It's fake feminism. All they want is your dough. The pro-life speaker said the social justice of abortion is no match for the beautiful possibilities that every human life carries, whether able, disabled, black, brown, white. In fact, through his work with mothers who conceived a child through rape, Bomberger said there is one thing they all share in common. The child is the only redemptive part of it. Yeah, and that makes a certain amount of sense, doesn't it? And any mother who gives her child up for adoption is choosing to be stronger than her situation. Love has to be the compelling source behind that decision. Adoption, then, is truly the loving answer to abortion, said Bomberger. Talking about abortion without talking about adoption is not finishing a sentence. Adoptive children bring joy to a family. Adoption gives meaning and purpose to the lives for whom life was chosen, he reiterated. Going back to his birth mother, Bomberger said he wishes he could let her know of the purpose he had found in his life. He shared a short song he wrote about what he would tell her. And I'll just read the lyrics. I won't sing it. I'll spare you that. You couldn't see what I would be. You gave my life a chance. Touching the future before it began. You're the reason I'm here. I know deep down my life has a purpose. So Ryan Bomberger is fairly well known in the anti-abortion circle. Perhaps not as well known on Guam as Jane Flores is in the abortion circle. Jane has really made her name for herself in the abortion circle. It's about time for Churchill Downs, isn't it, Jose?
About 20 or so seconds.
All right. So, let's see. Yeah, Donna Mila says it's an elective chemical abortion, not necessarily it's not a necessary medical measure. Thank you, Donna Mila. Okay, here we go to the big halftime show.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
More aid for Ukraine. I'm Carmen Roberts, Fox News. President Biden will update the country later this morning on plans to send more military aid to Ukraine. The new package is expected to be similar in size to the $800 million one Biden announced last week.
Weapons and ammunition are flowing in daily, and we're seeing just how vital our alliances and partnerships are around the world. Our allies are stepping up, amplifying the impact of our response, and NATO is united, focused, and energized as it's ever been.
The president speaking yesterday after meeting with defense officials at the White House. Russia recently warned the U.S. the delivery of the most sensitive weapon systems to Ukraine could bring unpredictable consequences. Meantime, an AP NORC survey shows 54% of Americans think President Biden has not been tough enough against Russia. The Justice Department seeking to overturn a judge's order that voided the public transportation mask mandate. The DOJ filing the appeal at the behest of the CDC.
The CDC decided there was science there that the DOJ would go to court in Florida. Well, as it turns out, the CDC thinks that an indoor masking mandate on transportation, so that's planes, buses, and trains, is still necessary.
Fox's Peter Ducey. Delta Airlines says mandate or not, passengers who ended up on its no-fly list for refusing to wear a mask won't be allowed back on its planes. And red flag warnings are up for northern Arizona, where the tunnel fire has exploded to consume more than 20,000 acres.
It first sparked on Sunday. Since then, it's destroyed roughly 24 structures and threatens hundreds more.
Fox's Christina Coleman. America's listening to Fox News.
Santa's come in and things are looking up. Bank Pacific has rolled out Rudolph's favorite My Christmas loan with an annual percentage interest rate as low as 3.99% and up to $50,000. And with the new Bank Pacific contactless Visa debit card, you can have the flexibility of using your money when you want to, where you want to. My Christmas Loan contactless Visa debit card. Let's make Christmas merrier this year. Equal opportunity lender. Credit conditions apply. Merry Christmas from Bank Pacific.
We're already Pika's best radio station, but we're always looking for ways to be even better.
Announcing The Point on Alexa.
In addition to our FM and HD radio feeds, our incredible app, informative website, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live, you can now tell Alexa to stream The Point. And your smart speaker will start playing whatever we're saying. News and views 24/7 with your 4-word command. Alexa, stream The Point. News.
The feud between Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and Disney shows no sign of cooling.
Donald Duck is going to raise a ruckus about this one. The Florida Senate has passed a bill to repeal a law allowing Walt Disney World to operate a private government over its properties in the state. The Republican-controlled chamber approved the measure Wednesday, escalating a feud with Disney over its opposition to a law barring instruction on sexual orientation as well as gender identity through 3rd grade. The proposal could have huge tax implications for Disney. Democrats warn the move could cause local homeowners to get hit with big tax bills. Tom Rigotti, Fox News.
5 people and a dog found dead inside a home in Duluth, Minnesota. Police say that they were called to the home because a man was experiencing a mental health crisis. Turned into a standoff when police learned that the man might have been armed. A boxing legend is the subject of a new lawsuit out of California.
In a lawsuit filed Wednesday, former employee of Oscar de la Hoya's tequila brand Casa Mexico accuses the boxing legend of sexual harassment and sexual assault on 2 separate occasions. Casa Mexico, along with 3 company executives, are also named in the countercomplaint in L.A. Superior Court. The unnamed woman alleges that on one occasion in 2020, de la Hoya showed up at her hotel room with his pants down, forcing his way into her room and onto the bed. The woman was able to push him out of her bed and walk him back to his room, with an incident following up the next morning. The victim alleges that execs for Casa Mexico did not act on her claims in any way. De La Hoya has denied the accusations. Matt Napolitano, Fox News.
Scientists say bees might survive the climate change crisis, but only some species. Research shows that warmer temperatures could drastically reshape bee communities, leading to fewer bumblebees and more smaller-bodied bees. That research is published in the journal Proceedings of the Royal Society Bee. And stocks ended mixed on Wednesday. The Dow rose 249 points. The Nasdaq lost 166. I'm Carmen Roberts. This is Fox News.
Come try Guam's original Chamorro restaurant with Pica's Best 5 years running. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus to naktak, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet hamburgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña and Grand Plaza Tumon location. Call their Hagåtña location at 479-2652 for reservations.
Half a day. I'm the owner of Guam's largest tourist attraction group. The pandemic's been very tough for all of us, and particularly for my team members. So I'm really appreciative and grateful for the PUA assistance to our team members, and more recently, the SVOG federal grant that allowed us to reopen these facilities and re-employ everyone at a critical time when PUA ended. From myself and my team, on behalf of all of us, thank you for the federal funds that allowed us to reopen.
The federal fund you provide saved many jobs. Thank you so much.
We employ about 35 technicians for our shows. Thank you for the federal funds. It kept us going.
Thank you for helping with the federal funds.
Thank you for the federal funds.
Thank you for helping to save our jobs.
Thank you for the federal funds.
This ad was paid for with official funds from the office of Congressman Michael F.Q. San Nicolas.
Howdy, folks. KFC's Colonel Sanders here. I'm excited to announce 3 of my favorite flavors coming together. Honey, garlic, and butter. And we're putting them on my delicious KFC Extra Crispy Chicken for a limited time. Grab a bucket for the family or try them on my chicken strips. The new honey garlic butter chicken is now available at your favorite KFC location. KFC, it's finger licking good.
So another great halftime show here on Tall Tales that we all love so much. That means we are now in the second half of Tall Tales for this Thursday afternoon. It's getting close, Jose. Tomorrow is our unfavorite day of the week, Friday. We got about almost an hour left today and a couple hours tomorrow, so we got to look on the bright side
every
here.
Moment.
Yeah. So Donna Mila chimes in with a little bit more useful and helpful information here. She said in 2017, the majority of abortions were done by Chamorro women between the ages of 22 and 36. None were due to the health of the mother or the baby in the womb. Yeah, they were done because the mother wanted to. And according to some of the statistics that have been floating around and some of the things that people say, married women sometimes have abortions because they don't want the they see it as a way of covering up misconduct on their part. Right, Jose?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's from the questionnaire. These are actually answered questions that answers are provided. But going back to the subject of rape, also, another thing that's been an issue with Planned Parenthood and instances of rapes is it's not usually the victim who goes in to try to procure an abortion. It's the rapist trying to cover up the crime, and that has absolutely been a corroborated an issue for Planned Parenthood and abortion.
And that's why they don't. That's the part about Ryan Baumberger saying the way I was wondering.
They cover it up.
Yeah, they're not going to report it.
They won't report, especially minors. They do not report minors getting abortions when an older gentleman brings them in.
Oh, very interesting. Okay, well, on statistics, I have a letter here dated January 31 of this year from Art San Augustine, the Director of Mental Health, Sharon O'Malley. And the key part of the letter says that, let's see, this left Guam without an abortion provider, etc. And thus, all forms of legal abortion have been unavailable since 2018. Well, that may have been true on January 31st of this year, but it's not true anymore. Because I also have here a report, a copy of the report that mental health is required to keep. And doctors are, not mental health, public health and social service. Doctors who perform abortions are required to report the abortion to the Department of Public Health and Social Services. And let's see, I've got a report here that shows that beginning in February of this year up to March, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 voluntary terminations of pregnancy and 1 therapeutic abortion. I wonder what a therapeutic abortion is.
They play music. I don't know.
Yeah. So 11 abortions altogether. And the dates are here to February 18, 3 on February 18, 4 on February 18, 1 on January 26, which was actually before St. Augustine wrote his letter. Yeah. Can't expect him to know what's going on in his own department.
Then he might not be making these kind of statements, these absolution statements, if he doesn't know.
Exactly. Yeah, so they're all listed here. Voluntary termination of pregnancy, 1 therapeutic abortion. And there's a commonality amongst all of them. And that is under the column titled Name of Facility. And here's the name of the facility. Guam Surgery Center, Dr. Shea's Clinic, Post-Abortion Emergency Care. That was emergency management of post-medical abortion complication by other provider. That's the first one on the list, and that goes back to, that's May of this year.
Just to clarify, Dr. Shea has commented on this. He did not procure this or participate in it.
Right.
He had to mitigate an abortion that was causing hemorrhaging.
So somebody had a chemical abortion. Mm-hmm. One of the 12 reports here of chemical abortions went south, and the woman came to Dr. Shea, probably to save her life.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, 3 cheers for Dr. Shea. And then the other ones, there's a commonality here. The name of the facility, Queen's University Medical Group Obstetrics and Gynecology Clinic, located at 1380 Lusitania Street, Suite 100, Honolulu. Now, how could that be? How could this clinic at Queen's Medical Center be doing abortions on Guam? Oh, that's a strange one, isn't it? Of course, we know the answer, and that's the chemical abortion, where we had a court case where our district court judge ruled in favor of the 2 Honolulu carpetbaggers who came out here, procured by the governor and the director of BOA, Dwayne Flores, came out here, got licensed to practice on Guam, although they'll never set foot on Guam, so that they could do these chemical abortions, apparently by mail. A sad, sad story. So we are actually doing abortions right now, and they are being reported. It's not good news. The good news is they're being reported. The bad news is that there's anything to report. Most unfortunate.
And I think the director of Department of Health and Social Services said that they're going to remind some of these practitioners of the reporting mandate.
That's right. Thanks to Sharon's urging, he said, "What do you do?" Asked, "What do you do to make sure that physicians do this?" Well, we're reminding them, and there are penalties for doing an abortion and not reporting it. Not for doing the abortion, but for not reporting it. Okay, so, and of course, guess who was against all of these reporting measures? See if you can guess. The pro-abortion folks there.
Same names on that list every single time.
Yeah. And of course, there's a little cognitive dissonance there, because if you think abortion is such a wonderful thing and something, we should all treasure, shouldn't you be proud of your role in it? Yeah, of course. Yeah, I did 5 abortions last week. And one of the ladies didn't have a whole lot of money, so I put her on an installment plan. Yeah, you'd think they'd be very proud of it, but no. And as been pointed out before, Doctors Bez and Bordazzu, who are OBGYN and run an OBGYN clinic, they don't do abortions. And we don't know, of course, what's inside their heads or their hearts. But the suspicion has to be that it's so morally repulsive that they can't do it themselves. They want somebody else to do it, just not them. All right, still sticking with this. Next we go to Tina Rose Munga Barnes. And Tina Rose, this item is on the card, is called Barnes versus Men. And I won't be able to show you why it's about men until I get to the very end. So Barnes introduced a bill, sponsors Frank Blas, Mary Torres, Pito Tetlahi, Talina Nelson, Amanda Shelton, Anthony Ada, Jose San Augustine. They're the sponsors of the bill. It's Bill 293. Proposed law would require would-be fathers to pay child support before the baby's born. Sounds right to me. Yeah, not a problem. Vice Speaker Tina Rose Munga Barnes has introduced legislation that would hold the would-be father of an unborn child responsible for financial support before the infant is born. I question the use of the word would-be.
The act's already done.
Yeah. The Pregnancy Support Act of 2022 would allow a court in consultation with the mother to award child support payments while the child is still in the womb and retroactively up to the 6th week of gestational age. 6th week. Just a coincidence, I'm sure, huh? According to the press release from Munga Barnes, the bill would further require expectant fathers to share the cost of pregnancy expenses. If paternity is disputed, child support payments and shared costs of pregnancy expenses would be paid retroactively once paternity is established, the press release stated.
Wait a second. This says Daily Post staff at the bottom.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Well, they're the ones that copied and pasted the press release, right?
I guess that's work.
Yeah. Here's a quote from Munga Barnes. The health of the mother is essential to a successful pregnancy and the birth of a healthy baby. She's got that right. By ensuring fathers take responsibility for the life they created, the Pregnancy Support Act of 2022 helps expectant mothers throughout pregnancy. Can't complain about that. Now, if she'd have stopped there, right, she'd have gotten a way to go, Tina.
Not very savvy.
Yeah, but she didn't stop there. She had to get the dig in, and that's why I say this is against men. Here's the quote. if we as a community decide that a woman must carry a baby to term, we need to have their back. That means ensuring that men step up and pay their fair share. Nice quote, Tina. So, you know, all the rest of it is just pap. It's just foundation for the punchline. You guys want no abortions? Fine. We're going to sock it to you guys then. You guys don't have wombs. Who are you to talk?
This cracks me up.
It really does.
There's a story, Brer Rabbit and Brer Bear. You ever hear of those, Uncle Raymond's
Oh, yeah,
tales?
yeah. And the Briar Patch.
The Briar Patch,
Yeah.
exactly. Thank you, Tina.
Yeah. Throw me in the Briar Patch. Okay, let's see who I got here in the green room. Probably another Joe. It's that time of the day. Sure enough, it's another Joe. Another Joe wants to talk about abortion. Compact impact, no doubt. Another Joe, I don't think any of the compact impact money goes to pay for abortion. So
it better not. They better not be giving Congress better not be giving the money to the COFA countries to have abortions. And if they do, seriously, then we should request that the next congressional delegate should come out in opposition and protest that we're giving money to kill babies in foreign countries.
I beat you to the punch, another Joe.
Yes, you did. But I couldn't resist. But I called the reason I call him Kebab is because so basically, if you know the way to back up little babies is to kill them.
That's right.
If we can't support them, then the best way to back them up is to kill them. It doesn't make
They're
sense.
better off not being born. Yeah. Then
it's kind of scary. I mean, the only thing I can think of in European history is the Spartans. If the baby is not worthy of life, then they put it out to die. But then they're better. I mean, at least give it a fighting chance, right? It has to be born first and prove its worth. And actually, as Christians, we know that we're all little babies innocent.
Well, let me introduce a term here. Another Joe. Cost-benefit analysis. I'm a great one for cost-benefit analysis. We weigh the cost of providing a benefit against the good effects of the benefit. And I think that's something that we should almost always engage in, cost-benefit analysis. And that's kind of what I went through when we were talking about the tree snail and building Simon Sanchez High School. If you do a cost-benefit analysis, this whole endangered species application to Simon Sanchez just doesn't work at all. But there's one place where we don't do a cost-benefit analysis, and that's with human life, especially the life of innocent, helpless human beings. We don't figure out how much it would cost for that child to be born or to live after a botched abortion like Leon Guerrero did at that public hearing on that Abortion Act. So I don't think we need to measure the worth of the child after he's born. The fact that the child is a human being is enough. Every human being is important. We wish them all the best. We hope that all will be successful, creative people, but it doesn't matter. A person is a person, right? Another Joe?
Very well said, Uncle Bob. We couldn't have said it better. Okay, thanks. I'll just keep listening.
All right. Another Joe.
I think he just called the governor a Spartan.
A Spartan?
The one who decides whether a baby's worth or not.
Yeah. Okay, so if you have anything else that you want to chime in on the abortion issue, we'll entertain those calls right up to the end of the program. This to me is the issue. Issue is more important than this whole COVID thing. Because
I was going to say the unintended result of this bill, which I wholly support further past its intention, is that I think it's a good path towards personhood of an unborn child.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody is a recipient of the payments. It's not just the mother, because there's a reason the mother is receiving payments, because of a person inside of her.
That's right. Yeah, if you took the abortion rhetoric, if it were just a tumor, There'd be no need.
I ain't going to pay for a tumor.
Yeah.
It's just a clump of cells.
Exactly. All right, so let's go on to the next item on the card, which is Michael San Nicolas versus Lou. Maybe we should go to Wrigley Field first, Jose, and then we'll come back to MSN versus Lou.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Hi, I'm Jerry Roberts, and every day on The Ray Gibson Show, I get to comment on the incredibly diverse, fun, challenging, sometimes frustrating, often exciting, but always interesting world of work. I hope you'll be there with us.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at guamtraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts. Brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
Are you looking for a new place to hang out with your friends? Let's go along the sidelines at Sidelines Bar and Grill. Located at 154 Iriarte Road, Unit 4 and 5 in Tamuning behind Royal Bigs. Sidelines, a hidden gem with nothing but great things to offer. Great atmosphere, great food, top shelf drinks, and a great team. What are we waiting for? Let the fun begin at Sidelines Bar and Grill. Open daily from 3 p.m. to 2 a.m. See you there.
So here we go, Tall Tales. Johnny Utah has joined us today. Johnny points out that the show starts at midnight in Utah. Tough break for Johnny. He's got to stay up late to watch. But he asks a question. His question is, let's see here. What is Jane Flores tied to Guam? Why is Jane on Guam? And the answer is Jane is a reporter from the U.S. She had some jobs as a reporter in the U.S. She came out here to work for cable TV, which was before, I don't think you were here when cable TV was operating, huh, Jose?
No, I was not.
20 years ago, over 20 years ago. I had a talk show on cable TV called Sunday Forum, 65, as were 95 to 97.
Oh, wow.
Every Sunday night, yeah. And Jane worked at cable TV. She was a reporter. And I'm not quite sure where else she worked, but then she wound up at GCC as doing PR work for them. And then when the Leon Guerrero administration took office, Jane was signed up to be the director of the Bureau of Women's Affairs, or the director of Women's Affairs. So that's what she's doing on Guam. Her name was Jane Ryan. She's married to somebody named Flores now, so that's why she's here. Okay, Michael San Nicolas versus Lou. MSN to governor, stop using federal funds to campaign with misleading message. That's an interesting one, huh? Stop misusing federal funds on campaign-type commercials that misleadingly take credit for even more federal funds. That's the message Congressman Michael San Nicolas sent out Wednesday morning to the governor in an interview with Ray Gibson.
With who?
Ray Gibson.
Sounds familiar.
The very Ray Gibson on 93.3 FM. The Point's Ray Gibson Show. The host couldn't agree more with him.
Whoa.
Mr. San Nicolas and Mr. Gibson were referring to commercials the Leon Guerrero administration has been playing on radio, television, and social media. The commercial features Governor Leon Guerrero taking credit for programs that are federally funded. The commercials also are federally funded. The irony is that the funds, drawn from the generosity of the American taxpayer, were secured by Mr. San Nicolas and his colleague to the north in the CNMI, Congressman Gregorio Kilili Sablan. San Nicolas, here's some dialogue. There's been a concerted effort to take those federal resources, create these local programs, and rebrand everything and make it look like somehow all is being done locally. And I'm definitely not anti-local, but I want our people not to be misled, especially when we're having this very same administration going to the United Nations and saying, Uncle Sam, the bad guy. Wow! Yeah. Well, with the other hand, they're taking Uncle Sam's money and rebranding it for their campaign book. And then Mr. Gibson says, oh my God, I roll my eyes. We're sending the lieutenant governor out to the United Nations to talk about how lousy we've been treated by the federal government. And at the same time, they put his picture and her picture on the ads that are paid for with these federal funds. Now, of course, I can't help but notice that there are ads that appear on TV and radio. Thank you for the federal funds, that have Michael San Nicolas's picture. And have you ever seen any of those, Jose?
I've seen quite a few just ruffling through these papers.
Uh-huh. Yeah, Jeff from Pirates Cove. Yeah, I couldn't have made it if it hadn't have been for the federal funds. And then, there's always a reference that's paid for by the office of Delegate Michael San Nicolas.
San Nicolas.
So if you can connect the dots, you'll know who to give credit for those federal funds to. But I'll say one thing for Michael. At least he didn't follow it up by saying, it's the least I could do with somebody else's money. Okay, we're going to go back to abortion for a second here. We got Donna Mila on the line. Good afternoon, Donna Mila.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for discussing the topic, even though you guys are males, because I'm really tired.
Well, we have mouths, Donna Mila.
Wait, what? I know, which is why I wanted to, correct the congressman when he said that Sabrina was more, what did he use? Qualified to speak about abortion. And all the men on Guam need to stop that, because abortion isn't about who's carrying the baby. It's about killing a baby. And they have a right to speak and defend the life of a baby, not just because it's being carried in the womb of a woman. Because a woman's right to choose should never include the right to stop another human being from being born. There's so many factors involved in abortion and all the reasons that are there. But I think people need to remember, even insurance companies give abortion. You're covered for an abortion if it's a spontaneous abortion, meaning that the body or the child were rejected by the body naturally. And that usually happens in the 5th month or the 2nd trimester. Anything where the body isn't doing anything to stop the continued development of the baby is called an elected abortion. And we need to stop letting these women who think that they have a right to themselves or a right over a child of a baby to use the word abortion as if it's their right. Abortion is a medical term, and what we go through, for insurance companies, they recognize the difference between an elected abortion and a spontaneous abortion. And spontaneous abortions are part of women's health measures where the doctor takes care of her after she has to be, they have to save her life, right? But elected abortions are not normally covered under insurances because it's an elective surgery. And in order for you to get an elective surgery, you need to get permission. Why is it elected abortions are allowed in our insurance payments when any other elected surgery has to go through the protocols to allow that surgery to happen. It doesn't make sense, right?
Right.
So people need to stop using the word abortion as if it's just a blanket term and start using the right words that actually describe what these women are demanding, their rights. And it's not a constitutional right to kill another human being. And whether they agree to it or not, it's kind of ridiculous. And this bill by Tina Muñoz Barnes, thank you for doing that, because that's for the men who didn't want to support their child in the first place. You know, those jerk players who just sleep with everybody and have 7 children from 7 different women, but pay no child support. When I, as a leader for the 40 Days for Life, I've been in conversation with lots of women, especially at UOG. These are young women who are studying, and we've had discussions about abortion. And a lot of them are being told that when you get pregnant, make sure that the father isn't involved. Why? Because you get more money if you apply for assistance. Number one, assistance from public health. 2, then he doesn't have a say in whatever you need to do to take care of the baby. And that's just blackmail. I mean, most of the men I know who had a relationship with someone and they got pregnant, they had no say. And the woman or the girl has an abortion, and he's not even consulted. And he's told after the fact or even before it happens, but he can't stop it because he's considered the abuser. Doesn't make any sense at all. So if a man wants to be involved in a woman's life, especially after being told that he's the father of a baby, he's dismissed, totally dismissed. I know several families where their grandchild is used as a revenge tool against their son by the woman, and it just doesn't make any sense. So when Tina writes this bill, she needs to specifically say women are not allowed to deny men their right to their child too. It's not just the money, but the right to be a father. It's insane how we're only looking at women as if we don't have the ability to figure out what we can do, what's best for our child. I'm just livid at this assumption. And yes, there are men who don't pay their child support and all that stuff. But here in Guam, the issue of child support isn't even about the father not paying, because he is paying. The problem is the child support office isn't releasing the funds, which the AG's office needs to figure out. How are they holding millions of dollars for child support? Why isn't it being given out to the women? So that bill should cover everything and not just one little aspect of everything. Can we write bills that encompasses all the factors involved with raising a child and not just point one finger to one person? Anyway, that's what I have to say.
Well, I'm glad you got here, Donna Mealy. You added a lot to the conversation. Thanks for calling.
You're welcome. You can continue. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to stick with abortion here. Ordinarily, I don't deal with late breaking stuff because it usually takes me some time to digest and analyze, et cetera. And I'm not a news reporter. You don't come here for the breaking news. You come here for the analysis and commentary. And of course, my corny jokes, right? And Jose's mastering of the sound effects board. But oh, shucks. I'm a little trouble here with my iPad.
This is Bob giving an example why he doesn't do breaking news.
Yeah, it's a good example, right? Yeah, I have an email here that is the immediate release from the People for Choice. And unfortunately, my screen is frozen, so I'll start reading it. Maybe I can unfreeze the screen during the next break. Guam People for Choice deeply disappointed in Republican Party of Guam's support of Bill 291-36. We are deeply disappointed that the Republican Party of Guam has chosen to fully support a copycat Texas law instead of joining our request for information and data on the far-reaching impacts of Bill 291 will have on our close-knit community, rather than inviting legal scholars, medical providers, and social workers and survivors of sexual assault to provide their expertise and their firsthand knowledge of the dangers of Bill 291. So you guys had introduced this bill. Did you go out and beat the bushes to find people who would be in opposition to it before you introduced it? Well, then you don't know what preparation is all about, do you? Yeah.
Did this come from the Babylon Bee?
You know, I got to find out who writes this stuff for the Guam People of Choice. Maybe I can hire one of them as a joke writer for my show. Let's see. Politicians have chosen to double down on hastily introduced election year legislation. The officials and politicians supporting Bill 291 are not telling the whole truth about this bill and the negative impacts it will have on our community, nor just on pregnant people. They ignored the most controversial parts of the bill, such as creating the $10,000 bounties on doctors or anyone they think has aided or abetted an abortion, the unconstitutional 6 weeks abortion ban, the refusal to exempt pregnancies as a result of rape or incest, and all the while callously brushing off the trauma of forced pregnancy with cliches like, two wrongs don't make a right. This reactionary statement only proves that this legislation is about politicians' livelihoods, not saving lives or protecting the vulnerable. Politicians could have introduced an abortion ban at any time since taking office, but they didn't. Instead, over the last 2 years, as novel and ever-evolving virus raged across our planet into our island, they chose to fight emergency measures aimed at saving lives and protection of the most vulnerable. And I got to see if I can unfreeze my screen here. I guess I'll just have to reboot it.
It's as if opening up that press release introduced a virus.
Yeah, exactly. Corrupted my system. Okay, let me see who I got here in the green room. It's R. Keith on the recent People for Choice press release. Yeah, go for it, R. Keith.
Hi, Bob. I'm lucky enough to have heard your whole program today, which is a rarity. And I've enjoyed your discussion. While you were reading the press release, you read a phrase that I found amusing. It referred to pregnant people. You know, I can't say I've tried all my life. But, you know, I'm in my 50s and I've been around, and I haven't been pregnant yet. Have you?
No, but I never even tried. And at my age, I don't think I'll give it a try, R. Keith.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. Pregnant people, not pregnant women, pregnant people. If you don't get your computer unstuck to read the whole press release, I understand that the governor is currently skywriting it on her broom over to Mooning.
Hey, good job, R. Keith. That sounds like something I would have said. That's really good.
How dare you?
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Yeah, thanks again for enlightening us, R. Keith.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
So long. Yeah, R. Keith's calls are always short and sweet. Straight to the point, usually with a little humor. Well, I unfroze my, here it goes. Let me see if I can pick it up here. Let's see, picking up here. The refusal to exempt pregnancies as a result of rape or incest and all the while callously brushing off the trauma of forced pregnancy with cliches like two wrongs don't make a right.
Wow. So the termination of the life of a baby is a cliche.
Exactly.
Unbelievable.
This reactionary statement only proves that this legislation is about politicians' livelihoods, not saving lives or the protection of the vulnerable. Politicians could have introduced abortion ban at any point since taking office, but they didn't. Instead, over the last 2 years, as a novel and ever-evolving virus raged all across the planet onto our island, they chose to fight emergency measures aimed at saving lives and protecting our most vulnerable in order to protect pocketbooks. I guess we could have a debate about who is most vulnerable. I'm still advancing the cause of the helpless unborn.
You know, there's a shortage of a lot of products on Guam, but there sure is a lot of straw.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, you could find people who could build straw men so fast.
Oh, these are straw people.
Exactly. Jose, let's head for Churchill Downs, and I'll come back and finish up this press release here.
Santa's come in and things are looking up. Bank Pacific has rolled out Rudolph's favorite My Christmas loan with an annual percentage interest rate as low as 3.99% and up to $50,000. And with the new Bank Pacific contactless Visa debit card, you can have the flexibility of using your money when you want to, where you want to. My Christmas Loan contactless Visa debit card. Let's make Christmas merrier this year. Equal opportunity lender. Credit conditions apply. Merry Christmas from Bank Pacific.
Listen to The Point anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Find your favorite stations like The Point and discover more. Music stations, local and trusted news sources, sports talk and team coverage, plus today's biggest podcasts. Find it all on the Odyssey app. AUDACY.
So here we are, Churchill Downs, the home stretch on Tall Tales this Thursday afternoon. Means I got about 13 more minutes to go till I get to the finish line. Working on this press release for, what is the name of this? Guam People for Choice. And they go on to say, it would be the ultimate hypocrisy for these same politicians to claim that they were fighting for choice. I think they own the word choice, don't they?
You know, it's really interesting that pro-life and pro-choice is actually the same thing. And I'm even sure that some of these people who claim, or women who claim they're pro-choice, are pro-life. But there's a difference between the camps. One camp wants to protect life and not terminate the life, and the other one is for a choice of killing or terminating a life. Mm-hmm. And that's the difference they don't talk about in these press releases. Mm-hmm. Everything else except for what is at the crux of the matter here, right. The life of a baby.
Exactly. It is easy for politicians to say that they're fighting for the unborn life and make abstract arguments about why fighting for the unborn matters. Abstract arguments.
Again, a dismissal of what is a valid human being.
Yeah. Abstract arguments. But what about tens of thousands of people living and breathing here since they took office? Yeah, here we go. What have they done to make our lives safer, better, and less traumatic? What have they done to prevent unwanted pregnancies? What have they done to make women's lives easier so they could choose to have children? What have they done to improve the quality of life for all the people on Guam so we could choose to raise children here? What have they done to stop global warming? What have they done to preserve the tree snail?
Well, one of the signers of persons that are a part of this People for Choice is former Senator Regine Bisco-Lee, who's probably given an example of, I ban plastic bags. That's what I'm doing.
Right. Raging Bisco Lee. These are the hard questions they have not answered. Their silence is deafening. Boy, I suppose you'll find some people that will take this. People have already made up their minds. You know, you have that. What's the name of it? Where your preconceived notion is validated by something that you read. Yeah. Introducing bad legislation and then hiding their heads in the sand because they don't want to address its negative effects on the entire community proves these politicians are out of touch with the realities facing Guam voters. If it were truly their priority over the past 2 years, would have proved it. But Bill 291 is about playing politics, not serving and protecting people. Politicians need to stop playing with women's lives and listen to the people of Guam. We demand politicians answer the people of Guam and let us choose for ourselves whether we want to abandon our principles of democracies and freedoms guaranteed by the Constitution. Let's wave the flag here while we're at it, huh? Have informational briefings, hold roundtable discussions, go into the community and address the difficult questions surrounding Bill 291 before you rush to vote on election year legislation. Voters will remember at the polls.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You remember what Peter Stroh called and talked about his letter response to Jane Flores?
Uh-huh.
And I think a copy of that was published in, I think, the PDN today.
Yeah, it
was it?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. This seems like it was written by Jane Flores. Still full of ad hominem.
Yeah.
Still full of disinformation.
Yeah.
Strawman arguments. It's incredible how they still cannot talk about what an abortion does.
Well, it looks like maybe Jane Florence because the English usage is faulty. The penultimate paragraph starts like this. If life was truly their priority, correct? If life were truly their priority. Where's my blue pencil here? You know, if you can't, you're not going to get a blue star for this junk. And then the rest of the sentence, their actions over the last 2 years would have proved it. Have proved? No. Would have proven it. So whoever does your writing here, Jane, you got to send them back to grammar school. I'm not even going to get into the faulty thought processes. If you can't use the language properly, I don't expect your thought processes to be any better. Actually, it's the other way around. If your thinking process is faulty, I can't expect clear expression. So that was the late breaking stuff for right now. So anybody else wants to chime in on abortion, this would be the perfect time to do it. I've got about 7 minutes to go. I'm going to go to the next item on the card unless somebody calls in here really quick about abortion. Okay, next item on the card, Chuck Sanchez versus Tradition at the Contractors Licensing Board. And this is a story that ran in the Daily News. Lack of authority sees Contractors Board investigation dismissed. Now, this is an agency, and I don't remember the guy's name, but the director before Buddy was on TV because he was selling political tickets out of the office. And it looks like maybe I got somebody who's taking up my offer here. Another Joe, a PSA about pro-life. Okay, I'll let you on, Another Joe. Go ahead.
Check Bob. So I have a service announcement, so to speak. So on May 21st, Saturday, May 21st, from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., the Catholic Pro-Life Committee will be having a conference, pro-life conference, obviously anti-abortion. And so I think all will be free. And I think they're starting to circulate the flyer regarding the conference. So I'm not sure if you've heard about it yet.
I hadn't, but we can repeat it, would you please, another Joe?
Okay, so at Bishop, it's going to be at Bishop McGartner Catholic School Gymnasium, May 21st, 2022, 8 a.m. from 8 a.m. until 12 p.m.
8 in the morning until midnight? Boy, that's a long conference.
12 lunchtime.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So there's going to be lunch and refreshments, free admission. Dr. Tricia Lizama and Dr. Vincent Duenas will, let's see, Monsignor Ruben Espanol and Basil Malin. These are some of the speakers. And a testimony of a woman who experienced an abortion. And the phone number let's see, the phone number is 671-489-2752 to contact the Catholic Pro-Life Committee regarding the conference. And I think Jose should have some of that information.
Okay,
So,
if you could shoot me an email, Jose, another Joe, I will make sure that we mention it on the show from time to time, okay?
Okay, and real quick, a way for everyone to be heard, whatever side you're on, regarding Bill 291-36 is, and please request for Speaker Therese Terlahi to schedule in a public hearing day for Bill 291-36. It'll probably have to happen sometime next month, God willing. But I think that we need to show support, and all these people who are against it, no doubt they want to have their moment to share their opinions, and the best place to do that on Kebab is the public hearing. So there's a case to be made, whether you're for or against Bill 291-36, the Guam Heartbeat Act. There's a case to be made that there needs to be a public hearing date scheduled sometime very soon, preferably, and we all need to get in touch with Speaker Teresa Lai to respectfully request that the Speaker schedule a public hearing date. So thank you for your time, Bob, and I'll just keep listening.
Okay, another Joe. Another Joe and a public service announcement. How much time have I got left, Jose?
About 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, I can start on this contractors licensing board matter. Yeah, the director of the contractors licensing board before Buddy Orsini was on TV because he was selling political tickets out of the contractors licensing board office. And as we kind of dig around a little bit at the contractors licensing board, we see that it's kind of a Bermuda Triangle of botched work. The botched work all lands there. And here it goes. A years-old administrative issue has led to an investigation by the Contractors Licensing Board being dismissed. Contractor Kindo Electric filed a complaint with the board against Morico Equipment, alleging that the latter company had been installing and servicing generators on island without a license. Board investigator supervisor Nita Bailey said at Wednesday's meeting. But last month, officials found they had been wrongfully issuing numerous specialty C68 licenses involved in the Kindo complaint, to contractors for around 13 years. The C68 license is a catch-all temporary license issued to specialized contractors until the work they do can be properly classified. It was introduced through rules and regulations in 2009 that were never formally adopted. Well, I'll come back to this tomorrow. Reminder, Marines Agate, Saturday morning, 11 o'clock to 6 p.m. And now it's time for me to say goodbye, and let's go, Brandon.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Time's running out for Mariupol. I'm Carmen Roberts, Fox News. Russia has been attacking the Ukrainian port city of Mariupol for nearly 2 months. And now the remaining Ukrainian defenders warn they may have only days or even hours left.
A Ukrainian commander bunkered in the Azov steel plant with Mariupol's defenders says they will not surrender despite multiple Russian ultimatums which have expired. If Mariupol falls, it would give Russia the land bridge to the Crimean Peninsula that they have long sought and free up Russian forces to join the offensive in the east.
Fox's Griff Jenkins in Kiev. The Associated Press reporting moments ago that Russian President Putin ordered his troops not to storm the steel plant. Rather, he wants to keep it blockaded so that, in his words, not even a fly comes through. President Biden will update Americans this morning on his plan to send more military aid to Ukraine. The next round of weapons and supplies is expected to be similar to the $800 million package he announced last week. Hang on to those masks. The Justice Department says it will appeal a judge's ruling striking down the mask mandate for public transportation.
The decision was quickly made following the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention statement that masking in an indoor transportation setting remains necessary for the public health, and that the decision is well within its legal authority. The appeals notice was filed in Tampa, where the district order was handed down this week. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
A raging wildfire in northern Arizona has forced more than 2,000 people from their homes as it burns through more than 20,000 acres. Fire officials say Arizona's wildfire season got off to an early start this year.
This is a little early for us. We generally don't see a fire this size in April. Generally, we'll see them late May and June.
John Paxton with the Coconino County Sheriff's Office. America's listening to Fox News.
How quickly did you become